What is going on, guys? Good morning. Sound check. Let me know if it's all right. What is going on, guys? Yep. Making sure that the sound's all right. Sounds like it's okay. Who do we got in here? Mr. Donkey, DMC, Ripley, Dr. Micho. What's going on, guys? How are we doing? Everyone else, all you lurkers, welcome. Welcome to the show. So quite a bit to talk about today. Some good stuff. But first, actually, let's talk about the name of the stream. The title of the stream today is Bull Flag Wednesday, question mark. Are you FOMO Joe? Dirt? Question mark. Well, ask yourself, what did SPY do this morning? After a gap up, nice gap up, off the strength of QQQ in particular, right? Off the strength of NVIDIA, which we saw yesterday at the end of the day. Like, this thing, it was kind of obvious that it was thinking about going. You know, to this extent, hard to say. And then you had Microsoft and you had Meta. They put in nice hammers yesterday in this consolidation. And look, next leg. Microsoft, we already know this thing. Yeah, there was it sounds like an analyst price rating. You know, they increased it to 600 or something like that. Always helps, but there's a technical move here. Same with Meta, right? Nice 8 EMA test, and both of them had that going for them, right? 8 EMA test. That was this nice hammer. Microsoft's been the stronger one than Meta as of late, and you can see it here. But that's why you're getting what you're getting here. Meta's already been making this move for quite some time, right? So you saw the weakness a little bit coming here. Nice big red candle. You could probably throw an AVWAP there if you want. And look at that. Look where that AVWAP is. Magic. So we'll jump into this, and I'm actually going to delete this so we can talk about AVWAPs because I think it's a great opportunity to discuss that. Someone was asking about that yesterday in the Discord. So let's dive in there. I'll make a quick video about that too that is like a short, so we can share that out to the people. But yeah, let's see. So yeah, the title of the stream is relevant because you had the last 2 days to be evaluating RS, to be identifying what stocks might be an opportunity here, and to see if this pullback, which we tried to have a pullback here, right? There was an attempted pullback down here, right? Engulf next level. Ride it until we get resistance. It was here, which was getting close to, we broke the new all-time high there off that move. Sorry, I know this chart is really hard to read, but I'm not going to delete all these horizontal lines because I think they're relevant. And basically what I'm trying to say is all these pullbacks had been bought up until the last 2 days. Now, does that mean that we're not going to get a bounce? No. I was still confident that we were going to get a bounce and try to retest this level. QQQ had been slightly quieter. And, what do you have on QQQ? You had a big H plus here, right? Goes all the way up here. And look where we tested today. We tested pretty much right to that level. Now, we hit a new all-time high on QQQ. QQQ had been maybe a little bit weaker, up and down in the last couple of days on this pullback from SPY. Well, like I said, you had the last 2 days to identify what those were. Those relatively strong stocks to see that you would potentially take a trade. NVIDIA was kind of one of them. We do know that there was quite a few puts that were taken on NVIDIA in here. Well, they got wrecked. And on top of that, you saw some nice support coming in here on, I don't know if it's the top of this candle or what, but you see a lot of support coming in, right? NVIDIA itself was a great pick that at the end of the day, we started to see semiconductors getting strong. I was in MU, kind of, a little bit of a bad entry, and I ended up scratching it this morning, which I'm glad I did because if you look at the chart, I would have gotten wrecked, right? I don't think MU's bad per se still, but that's just how MU moves. So keep that in mind and look at what it's doing now, right? We had an AVO up on there. Like I said, we'll get into that discussion. OUST was another one from the semiconductor space that we were taking a look at. Nice move this morning. A little bit of a pullback. Still kind of relatively strong. Doesn't move like crazy. So, maybe something to consider there. Anyways, let's see how, today plays out. Because what are we looking for from SPY? And we'll get into larger SPY D1 analysis here as well a little bit later today. But what are we looking for from SPY? Probably looking to see, is today going to be a double top lower high? Hold on, let me get rid of all these. There we go. Is today going to be a double top? We can actually look at VU because it'll be easier for you guys to see. But is today going to be a double top lower high? Or are we going to, retest this level and break out? And if we're not, that tells you that sellers are here, right? This level is finally where we're starting to see some significant resistance that we might start to break down. What did we say maybe yesterday and even last week in the stream? When levels get tested, when new levels get breached, created, they almost always attempt to retest them, right? Or they almost always retest them at some point. Now, is it 2 or 3 days after that move? Not necessarily, but look at the attempted retest, right? There was enough relative strength in stocks in the market in the last 2 days that you should have been able to say to yourself, I can take something and feel confident swinging until we get a retest from SPY. Well, QQQ gave us that retest this morning. It was a bit of a gift, right? So what did you do? You look to take your gains into the gift and move on. I swung MU and Palantir. Palantir is still hanging around. I'm still in it. I'm probably just scratch it from where we're at, knowing that there's a lot going on today. So with that said, that was the title, right? Bull Flag Wednesday. Are you FOMO Joe Dirt? You had the last 2 days, and I said this in the Discord. You had the last 2 days to identify relative strength. If you didn't get in it, you didn't feel comfortable getting long, that's okay, but why would you do it today, right? We don't buy tops. We wait for pullbacks. You had your pullback on the D1. You didn't take it. That's okay. But now you know. That's the kind of trade that you need to be looking for if you're comfortable swinging in a market that is this bullish. Cool. So let's jump into AVWAPs, and what we'll do is we'll look at meta, right? Meta is a great example of one, and so where do we throw on AVWAPs? And so in the Discord yesterday, I just made a really quick comment because people are asking about it, but there's a couple significant AVWAPs that I personally like to look at, and I'm going to go ahead and caveat this entire conversation with that there are other people in the Discord who have done much more work on AVWAPs. I've not read Brian Shannon's book, but I've been testing AVWAPs and using them myself. I don't know, probably well into last year. Just like any other indicator, your mileage may vary. Do your own due diligence. Make sure that the indicator is working as you expect it to. If it's not, maybe that's where you need to ask for some feedback. So AVWAP stands for Anchored VWAP, right? We already use VWAP today. We know how important that is. It's a volume-weighted average price. We know that it's relevant with institutions in terms of how they're trading. So consider all of that, right? What are the major candles that I look at? I look for AVWAP E, which is earnings. I look for AVWAP Q, which is quarterly. Option expiration. We look for high volume candles. And then we look for relative highs and relative lows. Right? Those are pretty much the ones that cover it for me. And then, as we get into a more advanced level, you have AVWAP, yesterday's AVWAP, yesterday end of day AVWAP, on gaps, up or down. And this is Izzy's contribution, right? He had been testing that one. So those are kind of the ones that I mainly use, right? And here's the problem. When you start throwing AVWAPs on the chart, it can get really, really dirty. There can be a lot going on there. And so definitely, consider that if you look at my SPY chart, you're like, hey man, there's a lot going on here. Yeah, of course. But at the same time, you have to figure out what reflects for you and what doesn't. So if I look back at meta as an example, and so you can find out a couple things here, right? So we'll just go through the list, and let me pull it back up here. So we had AVWAP E, so you could throw it on earnings candle, right? And so on TradingView, I'm on TradingView. The easiest ones, well, let me just delete these AVWAPs so you can see. The AVWAP indicator is in here, I think. Here it is. It's under volume based, and it's anchored VWAP. I have it starred because I like to have it up here, ready to go whenever I want to use it. And I can just place it on earnings here as an example. I think we've said that the earnings candle after earnings is better. Don't quote me on that exactly. You can kind of identify which one works best for you. A lot of times, a lot of volume comes in on those days, so keep that in mind. My AVWAP indicator has standard deviation bands as well, right? And I like the standard deviation bands to kind of test it out. I've removed the other ones outside of one standard deviation, but kind of identify for you if it works or not, right? I see some relevance, but what we often see, and what I think Dan and Izzy are trying to hit on in some of their conversations, is that AVWAPs often converge, over multiple days with other levels that are significant horizontal resistance or support. So have SMAs coming in, you have cloud levels coming in, you have EMAs and that are coming in, relative ones. Well, a lot of times these AVWAPs will converge with those levels. So we threw on AVWAP E. That's the first one I had there. AVWAP earnings. We have AVWAP quarterly. Quarterly OPEX. You can just do a quick Google search of that. Quarterly OPEX dates for 2025, and I think, let's see here. Okay, this calendar is confusing. Let's just ask Copilot. Copilot will know. What are quarterly OPEX dates? Are you dead, Copilot? This is going to be longer than a minute. I'm not going to be able to make a short on this. Oh well. Quarterly OPEX dates, please. Dude, this has got to be kidding me. This thing broken? Classic. Okay. ChatGPT. Someone else might have them on hand in the Discord, but let's see. Stay logged out. Okay, I got it right here. Quarterly OPEX dates. Here they are. I'll take a screenshot of this. Boom. March 31st, June 30th, September 30th, and December 31st. Is that right? No, those dates aren't right. These are the actual dates. Those are the wrong dates. Here they are. I believe these are the correct dates. March 21st, June 20th, September 19th, and December 19th. So for us, the relative one is June 20th. That's the most recent. So on Meta, let's just go ahead and throw one in there. June 20th. Where is it? Here. Look at that. Also coincides with what? A big high volume red candle, the pullback on Meta. This was also that pullback day in the market, right? If we go back and look at SPY, I think it was here. Oops. Sure was, right? Throw an AVWAP on there. And on my charts, you can see the purple line is the AVWAP. The green lines, the dull ones, are the 1 standard deviation. So we'll look at Meta again. What did we just threw that on here on Friday the 20th. What does that coincide with? Kind of the support that we've been seeing at test since that day, right? So AVWAP Q right there. Also high volume candle. You know, whether it was quarterly or not, that's a great day to have it on, have your AVWAP on. What else do we throw it on? Especially when you see something making new all-time highs, throw it on the most recent relative high. So we put one in here. And what does AVWAP tell you? AVWAP kind of tells you whose court the ball is in, right? Is the ball in buyer's court or seller's court? If it's above AVWAP from another date, anything after this date, right? The ball is in the court of the buyers. If it's above anything after that date where it's below AVWAP, you know, the ball's in the court of the sellers. We can confirm that, obviously, if we look at the D1 and see what it's doing. This is obviously a bullish stock. Well, you can see what you have here. Separately, you can also throw it on a relative low. So we have these days, and we know April 7th was a big day. And it kind of coincides now with the 200. You know, we're not going to be down here anytime soon, so I kind of just remove these until, you know, the market starts to pull back or the stock would start to pull back. I have quarterly here too. Maybe you could consider that support if you wanted to, you know, sell longer out of the money puts. That's possible. You'd have to have the market on your side for that. And you could use it as another level of support, but what does it coincide with? Also, the 50 SMA there too. So food for thought. But yeah, those are some of the immediate ones that come to mind, right? You have AVWAP earnings, quarterly, which looks really relative, high volume candles, which is also the one that we had here, right? Those are the candles that you want to start throwing your AVWAPs on. Relative highs and lows, we talked about that. And then last but not least, we have end of day AVWAP. So Microsoft or Meta kind of gapped up, but what we do here is we would throw the AVWAP on the very last candle of the M5 chart for the previous day. And up to you, your mileage may vary. I know Izzy removes, where is it? The extended trading hours so that it doesn't include those. But look what it's at today. It's almost like magic. Look at that purple line right there from end of day VWAP. It broke down through VWAP, but this move, and we've said, you know, in the past, once you get a gap up, a move like this, VWAP kind of bugs out a little bit, right? Because it immediately jumps higher. Well, you know, a stock that is relatively strong will typically, there's a chance that it could pull back to VWAP and even breach it, right? And in this case, it did. And what did it test? And the day AVWAP from yesterday. So Meta, perfect example for all these different AVWAPs that we look at and use. This seems like a potential place for an entry on a day trade for Meta. I don't know. We would have to take a look at the market and see what the market's doing. The market is not in a place where you would take a day trade for Meta. But what can you say? This is really relative strength. So anyways, those are the AVWAPs that I like to use. Doctor says IPO AV ops as well. Yeah, you're going way back for some of these if you're doing that. For some of the newer ones, for sure. But yeah, anyways, food for thought. That's the way that I like to look at AV ops. You can really get granular with it, and this is where there's cause for discussion, in my opinion, around how many different AV ops do you want to use? If you read Brian Shannon's book, there's a couple YouTube videos out there about the way he looks at it. They start throwing AV ops on like all these candles all day. You can use intraday AV ops as well. You could even throw it on the relative high candle of the day and say, okay, if it gets back above here, is there a world where this continues up higher, right? And so a lot of people use HA candles. You can also use AV ops in a similar way, right? So Meta, let's look at like PLTR. So for PLTR, we've been saying that this candle is really big, important, right? Big, important candle. Sorry, let me just look at the position real quick to make sure. So we're back in the money here. Let me just adjust it because, there's relative strength here on PLTR. So I still have a PLTR position open, but what did I do here? I threw an AV op on both the high, technically these AV ops shouldn't be too different, but you could throw one on here. This is all-time high, but this is a high volume candle, so I think I'd rather have one here, right? What does this tell you? Once this chart on the daily starts poking back above AV op, that's where I potentially am starting to get interested, right? So I think I actually took my entry like in here somewhere. So my position is in profit right now, even though we're not having much from the last 2 days. We did have a nice confirming bullish hammer yesterday, but this is an example of where you can use a VWAP on strong stocks that are making a pullback to a potential a D1 pullback to the estimate, to the EMAs, to levels of support, to identify whose court is the ball in right now in terms of the buyers and the sellers. Well, Palantir had a big red candle that gave people a lot of pause and hesitation. You had support coming in here. It was like, okay, is there a world that we can get long this though? Knowing everything that we know about Palantirs, knowing the technicals that we see here for a bullish bull flag, right, to retest back up to the relative high, the all-time high. If we hold a VWAP here, well, then we're in a pretty good spot. A VWAP from this high volume candle. You could probably also throw it on the 20th, which doesn't look like it was as relevant for this stock, but let's see. And where does it converge? Kind of like right in here as well, right? So you have some key levels in here, right, that we need to see support hold for Palantir. And if we're saying, what are the levels of support to help you manage a trade on the D1, to help lean on the D1 to stay in a trade? Well, did it break down below these levels of AVOP? No, it didn't. Did it break down below the 8 EMA today? No, it didn't. This thing's relatively strong. Look at the market. Anyways, that's what I was thinking for a quick discussion about AV ops. I hope that answered all those questions there. And credit to Izzy and Dan. They put a lot of work into this. Credit to Brian Shannon. He's the one who kind of coined this. This is not really in the wiki, right? This is something else. I don't think Harry and Pete use this exclusively. I'm not sure. But, just like any other indicator, your mileage may vary. Do the due diligence yourself. See if it makes sense. See if it's something that you want to trade on. I mean, it gives you extra credence, extra idea of what levels of support and resistance may be really important. Well, food for thought. Cool. Hopefully that was helpful. Market D1 analysis. We started to dive into it today. We said today was initially looking like a bull flag, right? To then potentially break out through these H pluses to a new all-time high. Well, what happened? We tested up to some of these levels. QQQ itself tested a very important H plus and couldn't get through, right? What is QQQ doing right now? It sure looks like it's holding a VWAP from the relative high. I don't know. You tell me. With AVWAP in TC2000, I think is not as handy as it is in TradingView. You have to be careful a little bit with some of these. The levels can be a little bit different than on lower time frames than they are on the D1. So I typically defer to the D1 time frame as the most important. So for here today, it's about there, but I would just be careful. It's a little bit more of a highlighter in some instances than a ballpoint pen. So keep that in mind. Tony says, "Hey, Red, curious if you understood what Dan meant by AVOP footholds." So Dan uses a lot more AVOPs than I do. I think he, and this is where there's the question of granularity. I don't know what's right or wrong. You have to kind of figure out what works for you and what doesn't. Dan has some videos out there talking about AVOP footholds, so I definitely recommend you get in there and look at those. I don't want to speak to it because I don't trade on that level of granularity with AVOPs. I'm looking more for just key levels of support and resistance. He's looking for different ways that you can identify what those footholds are. And how they've confirmed support based on those footholds, as my understanding, right? To then say, okay, I'm comfortable getting long here because we've confirmed support, we've hit those different stair-stepping levels, and really, this stock is like ready to go, basically, right? So there's definitely something there, but it's also, worth taking a look at. Okay, so we said, the market now maybe finding some support here at what was yesterday. There was a horizontal level there, was resistance yesterday, right? Now we're finding some support. We're bouncing, right? What does that mean for the market? Hold on, let me delete these big red lines. Gonna confuse people. Drawing too much. What does that mean for the market? What does that mean for your RS stocks, right? We're bouncing here. We said we like Meta because it's holding the AVOP. Well, look at that. Was there a trade here? An entry on Meta to retest the high day? This thing's so strong, it may just go up to the 1 standard deviation. It might go to the second. I don't know. I already day traded Meta today. I'm not in any rush. I took an entry here, and I got out like right here. So I'm happy with that. And you know what? I will show the tail of the tape for you so that people can see it. I also scratched, these were my trades this morning so that we're all on the same page. I scratched my Micron calls because I wasn't liking the price action as the market was flying higher, and Nvidia, an obvious semiconductor stock, was making new all-time highs. Micron wasn't doing anything. That's Micron. It can be like that. So I scratched it, made 20 bucks, right? I sold some Costco puts, but then forgot that tomorrow or today they're doing their monthly sales call, so I scratched those, but still, 10 bucks or whatever, 9 bucks. And then there's my Meta day trade, just 4 quick contracts in the money calls, a week and some change out, and just took a quick 25% gain on a day trade. Sometimes that's all it is, right? Identify what the relative strong stocks are. What was I looking for? Yesterday, I told multiple people in some DMs that I was looking at Microsoft and Meta, both for this move, right, to retest their all-time high. These two stocks have been the strongest of the mags, besides Nvidia at this point, and you're seeing that today, right? This move, you're seeing it held AVOP from AVOP Q on Meta. Let's throw it on Microsoft and see if there's something there too. I think it was this day. Well, look at that. It was so much stronger than AVOP Q? It held the 8 mainly except for this day, right? And even then it almost closed back above the 8. Well, what did it do today? Made a breakout to a new all-time high. Even better move than Meta, but I just didn't see an opportunity here on Microsoft to get an entry, right? So that's the way I was looking at it. Thanks, NK2025. Yeah, I felt like it was a pretty good one there on Meta. And, you got to keep it simple, keep it straightforward. But, for me, a 25% return on a, what was that? A 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 minute trade, 30 minutes, made a quick, what was it? Almost $1,500? I mean, you tell me. And that's not even like crazy size, right? Would I be considered swinging anything right now? Well, what do you think SPY's doing right now? I need SPY to show me that this is going to test up to an all-time high again. I don't see that right now. So I think this portion of the chart in here was so much easier to trade. This portion right here is where things become fuzzier, right? Because now we're fighting a double top potential. Now we're saying, okay, are we going to retest this level of support? And are we going to break down this level of support? And we're going to test the 8 again. Are we going to test the 15 EMA as it comes up? Are we going to test the 21? Are we going to test the 20 SMA as it comes in here, right? That's standard stair-stepping price action in any chart that you look at, right? And if that's standard stair-stepping, you're expecting to see the same thing on the D1 of SPY. Well, all your high probability trades to getting long in here, they're much lower probability now in my mind, unless you're seeing something that is really RS. Now, separately here, you're also seeing a lot of momos, a lot of like Bitcoin related stocks that have been, kind of tempting a breakout. Well, you're losing market tailwind here. So we need to kind of find out, what's going to happen here. Now, if we go now and talk about the next thing, that's a pretty decent discussion about SPY D1, and I think we can go even further in depth on that because I think that's the most important thing that we can do is SPY D1 market analysis. This is the most important thing you can do. Then let's talk about news, right? What are the news things that could impact us today? Well, we know for a fact that FOMC minutes come out later today. I think we said it's 2 o'clock. We can check real quick here. Where is it? So I use this. This is a good one. Free resource. We have FOMC minutes here today at 2 p.m. This is Eastern time, so make sure you factor that in. This is probably going to be pretty important. I mean, you've been hearing Trump yelling at a brick wall for the last, since the beginning of his presidency. Powell needs to, reduce rates or resign. Well, this is pretty important. Do I think Powell will do a rate cut here? I don't know. I don't think so. I think there is definitely softness in the jobs market, but it's being a little bit overshadowed by government hires. Now, yesterday, the Supreme Court said that Trump can do whatever he wants in terms of firing government employees. Well, if he starts canning a bunch of government employees, then yes, the jobs numbers are going to, they already did to some extent with the Doge cuts, but if he goes full, next level hatchet man and starts axing more government employees, which would not surprise me, right? Because, anytime someone says something that he doesn't like, he kind of says, all right, we got to fire this person, right? Well, perhaps if the National Weather Service has a bad day and doesn't send out alerts to a state that has a flood, does he go in and start, wielding the axe and chopping heads there? I don't know. But I do know that Bondi someone on the discussion, maybe it was Christy Nome yesterday or the other day talking about Texas, was saying that the National Weather Service was overstaffed for those sections. That's mind-blowing to even consider that if, Doge did its job, which, question mark there. But, these are considerations for the Fed meeting minutes. We know that Powell looks at the jobs numbers. We know that ABP numbers came in last week and the previous month super soft, and that's a weakness in the private sector. We know that from a macro perspective, that AI is impacting the jobs numbers because it's taking away a lot of white collar labor. How is that going to impact Powell's thoughts about whether or not he needs to cut rates? I don't know, but the rate cut is the ace in the hole for Trump and for the market and for institutions, right? If you get a rate cut, money's cheaper. Yes, inflation could still be an issue. Inflation is still a consideration, and we have, very weak understanding of how tariffs are going to impact that, because it seems like tariffs are just now, the deals are coming across the border or across the line. Well, how is that going to impact inflation? It's probably going to be a little bit downstream. We're going to have to wait and see. But the jobs numbers, I think, are the ones that are going to be the most important for Powell and his decision making. I think the bond market's pricing in 2 cuts still for later in the year. We'll see. We'll have to see what he says. We'll have to see what the notes say. So this could, be important. It could be a nothing burger. But it's important that you keep an eye on that. Also in the news, trade deals. Trump said last night in a tweet that he has 9 trade deals or trade letters coming in later today. What countries do those come in for? Yesterday they seemed like really irrelevant countries that we don't really trade significantly with that I'm aware of. But you would assume that bigger deals are going to be coming in through the pipeline. If you want to call them deals, I'm not sure there's even any negotiation going on here. I think it's just, trade letters that are getting sent through. But anyways, think about that, right? These letters that they sent out yesterday, they seemed like they were pretty aggressive. I had a list here. Let me see if I can find it. It was on Twitter. It was a pretty good list of all the countries that got trade deals so far. So maybe you jump in and find those. I'll see if I can here. Oh, PLTR doing something. Might be breaking down. Oh no, it's going. Love to see it. Love to see it. Let's adjust this then. Let's just move up our profit. Take profit. What's the market doing? Nothing. That is relative strength. It's great relative strength. My PLTR calls are currently, and this is a little bit more closer to a full-size position. I added yesterday as well. I know some other people were. They're up 20% right now. Looking pretty good. My PLTR puts that I sold are up 60%. My ANET puts that I sold are up 73%. I have AVA puts that are still slightly underwater, but they still haven't even broken down below the level of the puts that I sold, $30. This is Pete's trade. We still have time here. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so back to the discussion about the trade deals. I expect that of these 9, there could be some that are of consequence in terms of bigger countries that we do deal with. We already saw the ones for Japan and South Korea come in at 25%. That's probably a little higher than I expected. And the ones that Trump sent out letters to yesterday as well, despite being irrelevant countries for the most part, no hate on those countries, irrelevant from a trade perspective, they were pretty high in terms of the levels. So let me see if I can find those. I'll pull those up separately so that we have them. But definitely keep this in consideration. If you start to see high tariff trade deals coming in for some more significant countries, what does that do to the market? That's a pretty bearish look on the market, because you would assume that it will lead Powell to say, okay, we think this is going to heavily impact reciprocal tariffs, and then also the potential for higher inflation, because costs are going to get passed on to the American consumer. So, MAGA boys and girls, this is what you voted for. This is what you're getting, higher prices. Now, let's see what those countries were. I'm pretty sure I like the tweet, and I have it saved here somewhere. I hate how much I'm on Twitter. I seriously hate it. Platform sucks. It's full of bots and terrible people. But you have to have it because the news is so important, and it comes through faster than probably all these other ones. So it's unfortunate. All right, I can't find it. I'll find it later. But we'll see what those are. So yeah, we've talked about AVWAP. We did a quick discussion on that. We talked about what SPY D1 did today and what we're expecting it to do from here on out, and how I think that this is going to be tougher sledding, harder trading in here. And what I'll want to see is some consolidation in here likely. I want to see that this bad news from tariffs doesn't break us down below the ADMA. And this is where I'll be looking for RS stocks. I'll be looking for RS stocks that are still holding up their RS, that are looking good on the D1, that are in a strong sector, to then retest the high of this consolidation off of good support. We'll have to see what that looks like. Best case, you start seeing some big hammers in here, right? Over the next couple days into the end of the week. But and Pete had a tweet here just earlier this morning. He's expecting not much to be coming through today. Let me see if I can pull that one up. There's so much good data there from him. Where is it? One option, Pete Stolzers. Great thread here. He did a pre-market thread. What you should watch out for today. And you know what? I need to find a way to pull this up. Let me see. 1 second. Options trading. Is this a different one? Oh my gosh, I have to log in. All right, hold please. Coffee's getting cold again because I'm talking too much. What's PLTR doing? Well, goddamn. Add another alert. Let's see if we can get through this pivot level. I mean, this looks pretty good. My price target here is to retest this level here, about 145. Will we get it? I'm not sure. But that's relative strength comparatively to the market. Let me just... Looks like I just created a new one, whatever. All right. Here we go. This is one of the lightest news weeks we've had all year, and yesterday the market was struck in one of the tightest range we've seen. ESR up 15 points, but that doesn't mean much. Expect another dull session. Well, we had a nice move up. We got lucky with that. That was a gift to all you longs, and we had our pullback, right? Europe posted gains. Asia was mixed. Oops. What matters more is what isn't happening. No breakthroughs, no breakdowns. European defense stocks hit record high. Germany's rank jumps 5%. Trade policy is in limbo. Trump's August 1 tariff deadline looms. He's pressing nations that have dragged their feet. Japan, South Korea, and silence this week could actually suggest progress. No news equals good news. So he's sending out these letters. We'll see what those letters amount to. Pete seems to think these are more bullish. I don't know. I think it's more bearish because I think that the levels that he started throwing on are worse than people probably thought, especially for these countries that we definitely trade with more. The big beautiful bill is passed and was priced in. The market was pulled back slightly post signing. That gives us one less unknown to worry about. Sometimes clarity is the best catalyst. Earnings season kicks off next week. Expectations have been lowered. Biggest reset in 10 years. That makes corporate guidance the wild card. Don't be surprised if it's murky. My approach here is surgical. I'm very selectively selling out of the money puts. They expire within 2 weeks. Small size, high probability. Day trading is the best strategy for now. In quiet markets, waiting is a skill. Find your windows. Don't force trades. Pete, I found this thread very helpful. Thank you very much for sharing. TTD. Hold on, guys. Profit's asking me about TTD. Let's look at TTD. Do I have AVU ops on TTD? I don't. Oh, I do. I see one very big one. This dark purple one is all-time high AVU op profit if you're in here, and it looks like it's holding it right now. Probably right about here. Is it relevant? I don't know. I don't love TTD here. So, anyways, I'm going to keep it light today. I'm not going to be doing a lot. I'm having a great week, probably one of my better weeks in a long time, aside from when we got to nuke Tesla for fun on his Trump and Elon bitch fit. This has been a really good week, so we're going to keep it running and see how things go. Was it Kobisi letters? This guy, I think, had posted who has gotten those letters so far. So let's see. Here we are. These were yesterday's. So 36% on Cambodia, 36% on Thailand, 35% on Bangladesh, 35% on Serbia, 32% on Indonesia. We do some trade with Indonesia, and obviously these two are the ones that are the bigger ones. I mean, all these other countries are getting absolutely, knifed. These are higher rates than I would expect. Do with that what you will, But, we know that Trump can be vindictive. We know how he plays. Keep that in mind. We also know that he's a taco. So some of this stuff he may cave on later, but we do know he also pushed these all out to August 1st, which means that the impact of the tariffs and what Jay Powell is going to want to see from tariffs in relation to inflation probably is going to keep getting pushed down the road. And I think he'll continue to see. So anyways, he'll want to identify more to see. Anyways, what are we looking at today? We're looking at the market. We're seeing this. We'll want to jump into earnings. Like we said, earnings is kicking off again next week, I believe. Let's see if they actually posted them here in Earnings Whispers. I like this place the best because they seem to have a really good layout for how these look. It doesn't look like they've updated it yet for next week. Probably could find another list somewhere else, but we'll wait and see. PLTR still looks great. So anyways, guys, like I said, I think this is going to be a pretty lame duck trading session here a little bit. We're looking for the same thing as we have been the last couple days. We're looking for relative strength. You can trade both ways here, but we're looking for relative strength. We're trying to identify, what those stocks are doing as the market is making new lows, as QQQ is trying to find, plumb for support here after testing some significant levels above. I don't know. Is it important or not? That's for you to decide, right? But finding something like PLTR here, even in here, I mean, this has thrown multiple entries. It even threw an entry this morning. Look at the M5 here. M5, big sell-off in the morning. What did it do yesterday? Same thing, right? That's how you get a bullish hammer. Same thing this day, right? I don't know. All food for thought. Anyways, someone called out Futu. Red, welcome. Sorry about Scrum, dude. That's how it be. Hopefully it was important enough that you had to join. Scrum to me was always a huge waste of time. Someone called out Futu. Let's look at Futu. Yeah, I mean the D1's going, man. Look at this thing. Obviously today through a big H plus or horizontal there maybe. You have all-time highs that come way back here, but you're probably breaking through some of these. Can you throw on an AVU up here? And so guys, if you've been in the stream before, you see me do this analysis every single day. I do the same analysis. Nothing changes. Is there something here? Maybe we already broke through it. To me, it looks like we're late on Futu, right? Yesterday was the day. Look what Futu did yesterday when the market was doing nothing. Grind up in the morning, nice pullback. I bet you if we threw on AV op Q, probably relative. Looks like it. You know, definitely had been holding those levels after testing the 15 EMA here, right? Was there something here? I don't know, but sure looks like it today, right? Up 5, almost 6% today while the market's doing this. Futu looks great. What do these guys do? Finance. Nice shout. How's finance doing in general? I'm adding this to the watch list. Let's look at finance in general, and we can look at sectors. Let's look at XLF. Nothing special here, so I mean that's relative strength. Mags are strong today, definitely, and they're still bouncing, right? Something there. Comms is strong. That's because you have Meta doing well, and look at this. Like we said, there was potential for a day trade there on Meta. It tested AVOP from yesterday. AVOP end of day, had a nice bounce here, and look, you're retesting high a day. Could have day traded it again. So we'll see. Yeah, I really like Meta. NVIDIA obviously had its pullback a little bit here. Could you throw an AVOP on the end of the day? Look at that. Same story. It's below VWAP today, but look what the AVOP that it held. I don't know. If this market gets any strength back, we see the SMH is still well, big pullback today, and obviously NVIDIA hasn't been as strong as some of these other comm stocks. Well, you know, we missed the Meta entry. Is there one for Microsoft? I don't know. Let's see. This is how you can intraday day trade in a strong market. Look at that. Same story. I don't know, guys. Up to you. That's the way I look to trade. That's what I find. Looks pretty good. Google looks decent for a day trade. Perhaps that's a kind of an interesting hammer there. Could you do the same thing here? Throw on end-of-day AVOP. And like I said, your mileage may vary. You can use ETH, extended trading hours, or regular trading hours to see if it's more relevant. I personally just like to leave on extended because I think these after-hour levels are important. But maybe. Google, you say it might be good for a day trade. You have a big H minus coming in here that is probably going to be relevant at some point. You know, you need to account for that. To what level and how granularly, that's up to you. Is there enough room here to take a trade? Perhaps. So anyways, that's where we're at. And hopefully that this has been helpful so far. Anyways. Google entry, Meta, Microsoft as well. Meta, better RS here, in my opinion. Here, short Baba. I don't love to trade Chinese stocks, but we can take a look. Yeah, I mean, this thing's dying. Look at that. Fantastic trade. Making new lows. What can you do here? Same thing that we're just talking about with the view ops. Throw one on here. You know, there's one standard deviation off of that relative low. You could even throw one on down here. See where these are coming in. A little bit higher, obviously. So, I mean, you know, what's the other thing you can do here? You can throw on some, oh, well, look at it. It goes all the way back down here. Let's look what that looks like. All right, maybe something there, but it's way below where we're at. So is there something here? No. What about here? Potentially. Doesn't look relevant. Anyways, something to think about to identify next levels that might be interesting. You have obviously some horizontal coming in here, right? Where could this get to? That's kind of what we're looking at. So, yeah, I mean, it looks good. I'm not going to chase it though. I really don't think, you know, I mean, if this, today we're evaluating how strong the market is. We're evaluating how these tariff deals are going to impact it. News-wise, we're evaluating what the FOMC is going to do. And I mean, I'm going to be tuning in to Harry later today. And if Pete's in there, I want to see, you know, what their thought process is here. They're cautiously, Pete's cautiously long, selling out of the money puts, and day trading long. Well, Harry and him both, I think, or at least Harry does have some longer term puts on for the market. That's a bullish, or that's a bearish thesis. I mean, I see it, especially if this is a double top, lower high. You know, do we come back down? Let's see. We'll only find out one way. So, what else we got here? Reeks, great trade on the Futu one. Broccoli says GEV. Let's look at GEV. Yeah, I mean, great price action. Nice hammer yesterday. Intraday, not ideal, but kind of in line with what the market's doing. Nice little gap up. Could you throw an AVU up on here too and see what it looks like? Yeah, looks pretty good, right? Volume on this leaves a little bit to be desired. Something to consider. So yeah, let's see what happens here. So the market made a new low of the day, testing these AVU ops. Now what are we seeing? We're seeing a bounce to the 8. We test the 8. Looks like we got through. All right, test the 15 and the 21. Can we get through this level? If we can't, is it going to retest low a day? If it is that going to be a double bottom? Are we going to bounce back up to view op, then do this, stair stepping this way? Or are we just going to go back to view op and see how strong this thing is? Let's see. It's sort of shaping up to be another range-bound day based on what we saw yesterday. Albeit it moved up, which is nice to see. Obviously, this is QQQ, but same story here, right, on SPY. So we'll have to see. And, you know, some of this is, you know, what are these other stocks doing? Look at Meta. We just talked about this. There was a day trade here, maybe a little bit of a pullback. Let's see what SPY does here. Let's see what QQQ does here. If you can test view op, my guess is that Meta will probably take another leg higher. Let's see. Microsoft, same story. Is there a world where you could trade this back to the all-time high? I don't know. I think it'd be a little bit tougher. You know, obvious profit taking up there. Let's see. Apple continuing its breakdown. Nice look here. Really like it for a potential short. Yeah, and it's even giving you a pullback here. You know, is there an entry to get short again? Maybe. I think I'd want to see view up here though, and I'm in no rush. So we'll see. Yeah, and Futu continuation looks great. Nice shout. What else do we have in the Discord going on? Looks like some guys shorted Lulu. Nice trade there. Bears trended. Yeah, cool. So, over the past couple days in the Discord, there's been a couple discussions about, Dre posted something about someone saying they didn't get enough sleep, and they traded poorly and all these other things. Listen, guys, like, if you want to do this, you have to treat it like a business. And if you want to treat it like a business, you have to be a professional. And if you're a professional, even in your corporate career or whatever you do, you're expected to show up every day and put in the work, right? Whether you're sick or not, whether you're feeling well or not, you're not always going to be feeling good, but you have to be able to sit there and perform, right? And so I shared my feedback on that from last year. Definitely take that into account. But ask yourself, am I treating this like a business? Or am I just sitting in the Discord just dicking around and posting, GIFs and doing all these different things, right? There's too many people in this Discord that are not profitable or are not off of, paper or one share, one contract to be dicking around the way they do, to not be making call outs, to be giving advice that they have no proof of their performance. It baffles my mind, right? And so this is why I say, myself included, do not trust me. Do not trust anyone. Do your own due diligence. Go through and see, is this person, what they're saying, really relevant for my trading, for what I do, for how I like to trade, for my mentality, for my mindset, for how I should be acting like a professional? I don't know. There's a reason why Pete and Harry don't interact in RDT Discord sometimes, right? And yeah, we can have fun. We can do these things. We can joke around. We can mess around when we want to. But at the same time, this is a business. This is, I'm doing this for my job. So if I'm not making money, then, what am I doing just dicking around, posting GIFs and sending all these things, right? Anyways, I digress. What I'm trying to say is you need to be very selective on not only within the RDT, community and One Option and all these places, who you're listening to and taking advice from, but you need to do the same due diligence in the rest of your life in anything you do, right? You're not going to just take advice from Joe Schmo who has no idea, about, politics or finance or economics to say, yeah, I'll do your taxes, right? Would you trust that person? No, right? So you have to do your due diligence to sort these things out. And if you can't find the right people, then you keep looking, right? Or you figure it out yourself. And that's what a lot of people in RDT do. And I think that's good. And there's no reason, and there's no problem with, identifying those people and then saying, yeah, those are the people that I want to keep an eye on. And there's value to the conversation that they provide. And there's other people that you say there's no value in this conversation, right? And that's okay. What's an easy way in RDT to determine that? Look at their picks, right? I don't care if you even post a trade or not. If you're posting and calling out trades in the Discord, I'm usually looking at it. And I'm checking those stocks. If you're posting trades in here and you're calling out trades in here, I look at those stocks almost all the time, right? I can tell pretty quickly, does this person understand what relative strength or relative weakness is? Do they understand what market first means? Has this person read the wiki? I don't know. That's up to you to decide. But you should be doing that same due diligence in your life across the board. So anyways, food for thought. Really, really, really important to think through, because there are going to be people in all walks of life, this included, this more than anything, right, that are trying to sell you some ideas, whether that's, something that they're actually selling you money-wise or not. I don't know. All we have is our track record, and luckily in the market, it keeps score. How do you keep score? It's your P&L, baby. At the end of the day, are you making the money that you want to make? I don't know, but you got to ask yourself those questions. So anyways, I'll get off my my soapbox on that one. Doctor called out Google earlier. Yeah, it looks good. Like we said, I like that hammer. It's definitely interesting. If Costco wasn't reporting earnings, I would be selling out of the money puts on this, because I not only want some Costco exposure in my long-term investment account, but it's putting in some really nice support here on this cloud level. So I would be willing to sit there, accept some theta, because it's a very expensive stock, to say, prove to me that you can break down through these levels. And if you can, I don't think you can break down through the 200. So I would sell them below here if I really wanted to collect the premium. If I didn't and I wanted to get exercise somewhere in here, then I would sell it above. Amazon looking good, nice consolidation in here, bouncing back to VWAP, certainly interesting. Nvidia, we said new all-time highs, obviously nice here. Meta putting in a test of the 1 standard deviation AVWAP from the relative high June 30th, riding AVWAP Q, something there. Perhaps, like I said, strong enough today to be day traded. Microsoft not as strong as Meta, but this consolidation, this thing's been just moving up like crazy. So this doesn't surprise me. Will it kind of waffle in here and then keep going, retest this level? There's a good chance in my mind. But what do I want to see? I want to see this come back. Maybe test some horizontal here. Maybe test AVWAP Q again before it goes. So I'll be looking for the pullback. That's what we said. We don't buy highs. We don't buy tops. We wait for a pullback. AVGO, same story. Maybe some weakness coming into semiconductors as the day moved on. Looks like it's given back almost everything, and it filled the gap even on this candle here. Well, that's what you're seeing with AVGO, a little bit of weakness here, and that's the weakness we saw with MU earlier this morning. Tesla, I know a lot of people are long Tesla. I don't see a trade here for Tesla. I think if you're trading Tesla, you're trying to trade news. You're assuming that the 100 is support and that it will hold. Maybe. There is a lot of retail excitement around Tesla. Is there a world that you could, if you were okay owning Tesla shares, sell puts, a little bit lower here, maybe down here at like 285 or something? Maybe. Talked about this yesterday. I don't want to own Tesla. Elon's a nut. He's too volatile. I'll leave it as it is. Netflix, this one is maybe a step behind some of Microsoft and Meta. But look at this. This one tried to hold AVWAP Q and couldn't yesterday. So it broke down below. You're seeing less bullish impetus from this one today, right? Right there. It is, however, relatively strong on the morning after a bounce from the 21. Maybe this one, if the market is lagging, or if the market decides it wants to, look at this hammer coming in on the market. What's that do for Meta? Nice hammer here. Do we get long? Let's take a look. I'm going to look at the meta chains again. Uh-oh, here we go. Tariff news. Trump, 30% tariff on Iraq. 25% tariff on Moldova. Another irrelevant countries. 25% on Philippines. Philippines is a little bit more important in terms of trade. We get stuff from there in goods, so definitely kind of one to think through. Harry says if SPY 620 breaks, you're going to see some serious shit. Well, what's 620? 620 is right here. I mean, I think the 8 still is going to be some support, but I agree. I think 620 is probably a square number, but makes sense to me that it would be significant. So what can we do? We can just throw a level on here. We can just make it, let's make it purple. Let's make it purple so we know that this is 620, and then we're going to add an alert here just for the heck of it. I mean, this is pretty, not bad. We're consolidating. And if we just get consolidation in here, like, that to me is a pretty good sign that we're going to continue higher, especially if trade tariff news comes in and it's nothing too significant, especially with the rate cuts still on the table. So let's see. Anything else in the chat? Oh, we had a question about TSM. Let's look at TSM, Donkey. I think it's hard to consider longs here that aren't like super bullish, and I don't see that from TSM. TSM was so good in here. I have it circled the day that I called out TSM in the chat. You have AVWAP Q here as well. Let's throw it on and see. Could you use AVWAP Q as support? Maybe. Do you want to see more of a pullback? Well, we just said semiconductors are a little weak today. Have been giving it all back. I don't know. Perhaps. Nice move, gap up here on other semiconductor news. Let's just throw on the AVWAP and see where it's at. I mean, look at that. Definitely something there. Trade to high a day. If anything, I'd be looking for a day trade or an overnight swing. But I'm going to really start parrying my overnight swings here outside of, selling puts, unless this market shows me that it wants to put in like a bullish hammer here. And I think that would take a lot at this point. Because I just don't see that happening today. But we'll see. Trade what we see. So hopefully that helps, Donkey. Yes, the flu game. Michael was the GOAT. As a Chicagoan, big fan. What else? Are people trading other things here? 5X has MNST and PG on watch. Let's look at those. We know Lulu has been weak and it's doing that dance, right? The stair-stepping dance. You're getting, another pullback today. Is there a world where it retests down to these levels? Potentially. We'll see. We could throw an AVO on here. Look at that. You're through that AVO. This is kind of the signal that, hey, maybe there's a chance that this could retest relative low. Let's look at it. I mean, this thing's just plumbing. It's a nice trade. I know Reeks has been in this one for a while. I know a couple other people took this today, so nice moves there. Well done. Let me fix this real quick. We said we're going to look at the 5X ones, PG. So we'll add Lulu back onto the interesting list, and then we'll run through the interesting list again. PG not bad. You have a lot of horizontal here. It really needs to break down, I think, to consider this. You probably draw some, I don't know, look at this. You even have more horizontal here. I'm not super interested in this, personally. I think there's probably a better short than that. What else do we got? MNST, Monster. Oops. Nice pullback. D1 is not bad. This is just a reversal breakdown of the 50. It's about to hit this level here, and you have the 100 below. I mean, there's just a lot of resistance here. Can you trade that in here? I don't think so. I don't think it's as clear, especially on a stock that's been bullish. Yeah, I think I'd have a tough time shorting this above the 100. Definitely, because then you could perhaps trade this to the 200 that's coming up. But look at these horizontal levels that are coming in here, right? You probably even need to break down below this. Probably like 580, 58.70. I don't know. Hard to say. You'd probably see if there's also an L plus coming in here. Personally, I'm not interested in shorting this. Cool. What else do we got? Demo's got BE. Bloom Energy flying. Nice look. Great trade in here if you're in it. What do these guys do? Electrical products. Energy server. Yeah. L plus perhaps. H minus perhaps. Breakthrough. Multiple AVU ops that I threw on here to take a look at. Yeah, I mean, this thing looks great. I don't know if there was really an indicator that it was going to do this today. And it looks like a lot of the move was in the first 15 minutes, and maybe you could have hopped on here. But certainly looks good. I like it. Let's add it. Is that all-time high? No, it's not. Look at that. So there's probably an H minus in here. There was no wick on this candle, so that's kind of interesting. Hard to say if it's relevant or not. Maybe that's a good experiment here to see if this is going to be relevant. But either way, it's breaking through that. So kind of interesting there. Do we have AVU off from there? Oh, yeah, we do. Do we? Doesn't look like it. Let's add it. I mean, they're all coming in here, so you're above all those AVU ops. Certainly looks good. Nice shout, Demos. BA, Boeing, I mean, you do you. I, like Harry, don't like trading airplane stocks in general, airlines. So that includes Love, that includes Delta, that includes, all those different ones. I don't really touch them, but nice breakout here over this horizontal consolidation. Was there a world that you could throw an AVU up here? Was there a world that you could throw an AVU up on the 20th? And you're above all those. Nice hammer yesterday on weakness in the market. I don't know. But look at the market now. This big hammer, we're taking off to the next level. And look at that. Meta gave you, like we said, was there an entry here? Meta's taking another leg higher. New high day. Yeah. I mean, patience gets rewarded in this market. Well, what did patience look like in the last 2 days? Patience looked like, okay, here's a pullback here. I'm looking for RS stocks that still performed the following day. We took gains there. Same thing yesterday. Could have taken gains today if you were in the right RS stocks, like NVIDIA as an example. Well, now we're making a doji today. A doji today makes us even less clear about what's going to happen. We'll see how news impacts this, but, are we just going to consolidate in here? It's very possible. Isa likes Roblox. I watched a video on Roblox yesterday. It was pretty funny. But these kids, man, they're making so much money. It's like I didn't realize there's like YouTube video games. I just don't get how people can play all these stupid games. They're pathetic. I don't know, man. It's crazy to me. Maybe I'm just a boomer now at this point. That AV op doesn't look relevant, so kind of just leave it. I don't mind it. Roblox just a grinder. Not really interested. What else did we have? I know Dash was a good call out from the other day. Let's look at that. A little bit of a pullback yesterday. Consolidation in here. I don't love it. Let's look at its cousin Toast. I know Dino traded Toast the other day. He took it in here up to the H minus, and then we had a big rejection yesterday. I think if you took profits up here, it was probably good. But yeah, oftentimes these H minuses, they become relevant, and you get a rejection, and you're back in this consolidation. What is it going to take from the market to take this to the next level? Is it going to continue to ride this? Can you throw AV ops on some of these bigger levels? Can you throw one on here? Can you throw one on the 20th? Wherever that may be. We're above these AV ops. We're holding them today. Depending on your entry, depending on what you're looking for, maybe there's a trade here, but I prefer to just wait and see if there's set an alert above that level, and I want to see it confirm above there. I want to see it end the day on a candle above that level. What's going on, Joe R? What else do people got? Questions, thoughts? I think Harry and Pete are going to start here in about an hour, is my understanding. So I'll probably wrap this up shortly. We've been going for an hour 15, hour 20, but I'm wanting to drink my coffee and probably find something else to do. Maybe go do some chores, because I don't know. There's not much going on here. I just have my PLTR trade to monitor. Look at ANET, man. This thing's a beast. I sold puts on it. It ended up being a good trade, but at the end of the day, you could have also taken this off the hammer yesterday with calls. And look at this, entries for days. ANET looked good. Ava still hanging in there. Futu, the other call out, looks great. Let's just go through the interesting list real quick to see what else we had in here. I mean, BE 19%, that's crazy. Futu looks good. CLS, another one. This one's been on the list. We've been waiting, and this is why I have this interesting list. It's hard to set alerts here and to catch it, because you're like, what do I need to see to catch this before it makes this move, right? You want to see it hold these levels. The 8 EMA in particular, you want to see it hold AV op Q, which it did, right? And you want to see some relative strength coming in. Well, there wasn't a ton yesterday. Maybe just holding this level and dojaing was enough, but I think it would have been hard to catch this one to then say, yeah, I could have caught it before it made the all-time high. So that's just me personally, but it was on this list because this is what I expected from it. I just didn't get the chance to trade it. This is a little bit more of a grinder. I don't know. I find those hard to trade, and I've said that before. If you guys are in here, you know that. Hood, another one. Look at this. Is there a world where you can throw on the AV op here? Yeah, looks pretty good. Staying above it. Is this your support that you would use as a stop? Potentially. Net, same story. Very similar to Palantir, actually, with a big red candle. Can you throw an AV up here? Looks like it's above it. Looks like it's above one standard deviation. Can we throw one on the 20th as well? Same story. See the convergence in here? See the hammer yesterday off those levels? Let's look at the intraday. I mean, this was scary for you, right? Very scary. But what did it do? It respected those AV ops and the ADMA and finished the day with a nice bull hammer. I don't know. This is a key level with a big red candle like that. So if it can't get through that, you're probably at the top here for this trade. But you could have taken, potentially something here in this run up. And that's kind of what we're looking for from Palantir, right? We're trying to see if it'll test here. Will it? I don't know. Hard to say. Anyways, VIX coming back down, so keep a tight eye on VIX. I have an alert at the end of the low of the day to see. It is making a little bit of a stair-stepping move back up here, so we'll see. And let's look at the market real quick to see what's happening. So we didn't even get a test of VWAP yet. We got above the 21 EMA and made a bearish hammer. Looks like we're going to test back down to the low of the day. So what does that do for Meta? Meta's pulling back here, but look at this. Like, is there a world where this just holds the 8 now and continues to ride it up?
Anyways, and look at PLTR now. As we see the weakness start to come in again, PLTR is giving it back a little bit. So what does this mean for your trade? You need to identify, are you willing to stay in this trade? Are you wanting to see what happens here? I'm okay with the doji here because that's kind of what's happening with the market. I want to see these levels hold. If they break down, then there's a question of, okay, do I need to consider something different for PLTR? I would like to not take a loss on this PLTR trade, so maybe I will put it in a stop above my cost basis, and I'd be happy to scratch it just because of where my week is at. But we will see. Let's see how it reacts with VWAP here. Anything else? There's a good call out. Captain Cooks likes A-Lab. Let's take a look at that. We know that's a semiconductor stock. Micho, looks like you took a win on net. There you go. Perfect trade, dude. Well done. Lots of fake out breakouts today, Ripley says. I agree. Reeks, 40% on Futu. Banger. What was the other one? We just saw one here. A-Lab. Let's look at Cook's A-Lab. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. This is a newer stock, so you need to consider that. You have a lot of support coming in below here that could be relevant. The convergence of the SMAs. Definitely probably an H- up here somewhere that could be relevant. I mean, if, are you early? Are you, I don't know. I don't really love that. It looks like Cook took it on paper. Where would I be interested? Probably a break out of this consolidation and then a pullback to it to take it to the next level. I mean, look what it did here basically on good news. We know that A-Lab is also very closely associated with INTC. Well, look what INTC did yesterday. Not that it's a fake out on INTC. It's pulling back a little bit today on some weakness in SMH. But look what it did yesterday. I think, if it can confirm support here, does it carry on and move up a little bit? It's possible. INTC is, as we know, one of the dogs of the semiconductor industry. Well, is there still a trade here? Potentially. Let's see. Cool. Anything else? Like I said, we'll be keeping an eye on PLTR, see how this works out. VST, let's see if we can answer Micho. Your question about CEG, so many objective analysis of the support I have. Oh, I had 528. Let's look at CEG real quick. What do you know about CEG? This is a nuclear stock. It's been making a nice move. Big red candle here. That's pretty ugly, like super ugly. You would throw an AV up on there. You're above it and you're holding it now, so it's not bad. Is there a world that you retest that level? Probably. 528 you said was... I didn't wait for confirmation because I was thinking of the video you sent. The institutions don't wait for confirmation, but I had strong support. It does look like it has strong support. I don't know where 528 is. Let's see. Here. I don't know why that day is important. I guess I see it there as like horizontal, potentially. But I think the AVOP is more important. Do we have AVOP Q too? Potentially. And you're through it. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, obviously, look at the price action today. Definitely there. Something in energy today, for sure. 5.8. Yeah, I mean, maybe there's L plus support. I like the AVOPs better. I think they're more relevant, especially this one. This looks really important. So that's probably your stop. Energy does move a little bit differently than the rest of the market, so keep that in mind. Let's look at VST. Yeah, I mean, this guy's a great stock, and we know this one is in the semiconductor space. We know this one's affiliated with all the server farms they're putting in place to power all those different AI platforms. Something there. Is there horizontal / H-, like a really barely an H-, probably more horizontal that you're breaking through today, potentially. I see it. How do you trade it? Nice hammer yesterday. Probably throwing some AV ops that could be relevant. Yeah, not bad. Doesn't really move aggressively here, but yesterday really held AVOP Q. So I think AVOP Q is a lot more relevant than some of us take into account. So I think you guys should really utilize that one. Awesome. All right, well, we're coming up on 10 o'clock here. The market is, let's take one more look at the market. Thanks for the follow, dude. Yeah, if you guys aren't following, shoot us a follow. We do these streams once or twice a week, a couple times a week. Hopefully it gives you an idea of my process. Like I said, do your own due diligence. Don't trust me. Let the price action, let my picks do the talking. And we don't share P&L in RDT Discord, but I will happily share my P&L with you here, on a weekly basis, etc. In fact, I will do that right now so you can see what my weekly P&L looks like. I have taken 13 trades. A couple of these were scratches, so hard to say for certain. And with 11 of them as wins. Like I said, some of those are scratches, so take that into account. You saw my gains today. These are the gains for the week. I trade options. I don't trade shares as frequently. I will trade shares occasionally, but mainly my LTI is shares. These are my gains for the week. And I will show you for July as well. Actually, let's just adjust it to June 30 because that was the Monday, right? For the month, right? Pretty consistent. Let's go back to the beginning of June. And I'm not doing this to brag. I'm doing this to show you what's available to you, what's possible, right? And listen, there are parts of my trading that are inconsistent. I'm a human being. There are times where I don't trade well. But this is what I've done since the beginning of June. I don't know. You tell me. What could this do for you? What could this do for your life? I don't trade a significantly large account. I usually trade about like a 50K account. Anyways, food for thought. All right, we'll leave it at that. Any other questions, thoughts? Otherwise, Harry and Pete later today. Get in on that YouTube. Always insightful, helpful, something worth looking at and getting their opinion on the market, especially Pete. And yeah, I'll put a better clip together of the AVOP discussion. We'll see if Izzy or Dan or anyone else wants to add to it. I think Dan has some videos out there already that are really good. If you want to really get granular with your AVOPs, you can also obviously go read the Shannon book. A lot of people have read it, but it's also a really good resource to really dial in some of this. Can you go into ChatGPT and ask it some of the questions about the Shannon book about what's really important? Probably. Will ChatGPT really know? I don't know. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, right? What you do is you take the indicator, you take whatever it is that you want to test, throw it on your charts and see what happens. See if it reflects, see if it impacts your trading, see if it helps identify support and or resistance for you. And then from there, you can identify risk reward for your trades, what your take profit target is. How are you willing to structure a trade? Is that in options? Is that in shares? How does that, work with your time frame of your trade, especially if you're in options, right? So you're not getting screwed by theta. These are all things that you have to account for in your trading. Anyways, we'll leave it at that. Like I said, choose to follow if you want. We're in here occasionally. I hope this is helpful. I hope this is valuable to you. Yeah. Everyone have a good day. Happy hump day. Let's hope Palantir decides to, and the market decides that it wants to, stick around. I'll set an alert here just for the heck of it on VWAP, just to keep an eye on it. Same thing here. It looks like it's bouncing again. Is this a double bottom? A triple bottom, perhaps, even if you could consider that hammer a double bottom? I don't know. Seems like there's some pretty significant support here on SPY and QQQ. What does this mean for some of these stocks? Looks like Palantir's, still being a little bit of a pendejo. We said ANET earlier. Look at this thing. Massive. Anyways. All right, guys. Have a good one. VOD will be on Twitch. I'll also put it on YouTube. Like I said, hopefully this was helpful, and I will be in the Discord. Cheers.